Canby, welcome to the Canby City Council special meeting for April 22nd, 2020. Light agenda item tonight. We're looking at wrapping up and getting some finalization regarding our posting for our new city manager. So we're looking to finish some tweaking and some details with that on tonight's agenda. So thank you all for joining us. First on the agenda, though, is an opportunity for citizen input. When the agenda went out, our city recorder, Melissa Bissett, included a phone number or an email. You can reach out to her with comments or questions not pertaining to the agenda if you so desired. Melissa, did we get any inquiries or wishes to address the city council?
We did not.
Okay. Well, with that, we're going to move into item number 3, which is considering the adoption of the revised city administrator hiring standards, criteria, policy directives, and including the candidate profile. Joining us via video from sunny California is Phil McKinney, who's helping us with this process again. We gave, I think a couple meetings ago, we did a work session and looked at how we can do what pieces we needed to update or language we needed to change. And so we've sent him back with some language changes, some additional bullet pointed pieces. So I'm going to allow Phil to address what we sent to him and let us know what work he's completed and where we're going from here. So Phil, I'll turn that over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. For the record, this is Phil McKinney with the search firm Peck & McKinney. I think my challenge or my directive after the last time we talked was to conduct a brief salary survey of communities of similar sizes as far as Canby to see if we're on track with what we were advertising before. Prior advertisements was 125,000 to 150,000. We talked about, and my recommendation back to you was to change that range to 135,000 to 175,000. The survey, the results of the survey, we contacted about just over 20 cities, like I mentioned, similar in size. There are several that are above you, that would be above you, even if you hired at the top of that range. There are obviously several below you. This is not putting you in the top, but puts you probably in the top quartile. And then realize when you advertise a range from say 135 to 175, most candidates are applying with the acknowledgement that they're not going to come in at the top of the range. You want to have room to move up. So usually the midpoint is where we try to get the candidates to look at. Councillor Spoon?
Thanks, Phil. Just a question, because we're kind of unique in that we're one of the smaller towns in the Portland metro area. And in terms of determining the appropriate salary range, how many of those towns are in proximity to an urban area? I'm just thinking about cost of living. Like if our city administrator, we require them to move to Canby, the cost of a home in Canby is much higher than the cost of a home in towns of similar size outside of an urban area, and how that kind of factors into where we set the price range. Because even though we're a small town, our housing prices, for example, are higher than towns in other parts of the state just because of our proximity to Portland. And since we require them to move here, I want to make sure that we're factoring kind of that in if we're comparing to other cities of the same size that aren't near an urban area, if that makes sense.
Well, it does. I don't have that answer for you as to which communities are part of a major metropolitan area. The other comment I wanted to make too is population isn't necessarily an indicator of complexity. For a small community such as Canby, you have the utilities, you have your wastewater and treatment plant. There's more to Canby than just a small community that has a police department, as an example. You might be able to help me. The ones that I targeted on were Happy Valley, Klamath Falls, Milwaukee, and then Lake Oswego is on the upper end as far as population size and also salary. We looked at some assistant city managers that price points are above the range that we advertised before, and those were in Sherwood, Wilsonville, and Tualatin. So I hope those are relevant comparisons as far as our purpose. So
It sounds,
from
yeah.
that, so my recommendation was to go from that 135 to 175 mark with the realization that as far as negotiations are concerned, we'll be most likely in the mid-range. You won't be at the upper end of that, and most likely you won't be at the lower end of that.
Okay. Councilor Parker, did you have a question?
Let me have Phil finish, and then we'll go to questions.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Yeah, I know. Go ahead, Phil. Sorry.
Well, I was going to follow up on something that was in the minutes from one of the meetings. You asked, how do we attract candidates to the process? And my response was, I believe, we do a lot of advertising. We talked about the reach of that advertising, but there's also a lot more that we do, and I didn't include that. The candidate profile, what we're looking at tonight, becomes the major piece of our marketing campaign. We do a direct mail effort with that document and an invitation letter to about 350 to 400 people in the Western United States. We also do an electronic distribution. That can be someone asks for information, we'll send that to them, or if I'm trying to follow up with an inquiry, I can send it to them electronically. We also have a newsletter that we send out, and we'll make sure that this opportunity is included in that newsletter. On our website, when people look at our website or apply for opportunities, they're afforded an opportunity to get onto an email list, such that if we send out an update they've asked for it, we have 4,200 of those recipients. So we think the newsletter is fairly effective. The advertising we touched on, it's global in reach as far as the International City and County Management Association and their efforts. And then we also do quite a bit of reach locally within the state of Oregon. Lastly, I do a lot of personal outreach, calling people within the state that I know. Like in Martha Bennett from Metro now in Lake Oswego, Rachel Fuller up in Hood River, Oregon, Nancy Newton, who is the new city manager in Springfield. I placed her as the assistant county manager in Sacramento. So these are people I know, and follow up with them and ask if they might know of anyone that has an interest possibly and the skill set that we're looking for. And that's how we generate our applicant pool. Councilor Parker. I'm done.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Parker?
Well, I thought that was interesting that you talked about this being at a price point higher than assistant city managers. Last time when we recruited, Phil, remind me of the numbers. We had 52 people respond, and of those, only 2 met the minimum requirements of a five years combined assistant and city managers. Is that correct?
No. I believe we had 54 applicants total. And then through narrowing process, I think I interviewed, I didn't check my notes, but I think I interviewed about 11 or 12 candidates that met the minimum qualifications. And then I recommended a smaller group, a subset of that group, to you for your consideration. I believe we interviewed more than 2, but the 2 came out on top. Those were invited back for the public meet and greet, and then the final determination from you, the council.
Well, I'm happy that you've made the suggestion of going up to 175. I support that. This reminds me a little bit about buying a house, and sometimes the price doesn't matter as the value of what you're getting. So I'm okay with that price. Oh, you said that Lake Oswego was at the high end. What do you have that number handy?
Lake Oswego has a range of 149,000 to 181,000.
Okay, if we're within nip and range of Lake Oswego, I'd say we're in the market. That's all I had.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else with any questions or follow-up comments? Okay. Yes, Councilor Spoon.
I know we talked about this last time when we were in the hiring process, and you said, if we want to go back out for another pool, we have to raise the price. Do you feel like, in your experience, you're the expert here, adjusting that price range will get us a better pool of candidates than we had last time we went through the hiring process? Do you feel like that's the
key question. I understand. If I could take that salary range back to that first process, I would say yes. It would most likely attract a higher quality of candidates. What we're dealing with now, I don't know. And it's, it's just, there's so many unknowns regarding the COVID-19. But yes, how can I say it? My experience shows that when you raise the salary, you will attract a higher pool of candidates, more quality.
And that was kind of my follow-up question is, I think that, given kind of some uncertainty, what are you seeing in your industry in terms of how the pandemic, the stay-at-home orders are affecting the hiring process, and what can we expect that's different from last time, given that? I mean, I'm just, trying to make sure that we know what we're in for here.
Well, I think a lot of it depends on the flattening of the curve. Right now I have different clients that have opted to, put the search process on hold, but now they're starting to come back out. We're looking towards the end of May as far as interviews. We have others that have just forged ahead, done everything virtually, including the final interviews via Zoom, and have made their selection and they've moved forward. One of those involves relocation. So that person is willing to make the steps necessary to have that occur. That's of my search. Bobby has a search coming from out of state, same thing. They're moving forward and that person plans on moving. The unknowns, it's hard to say. You have the housing requirement as far as Canby. That's a barrier. We talked about this before. I think we're starting to experience and expect kind of a hunkering down. This happened after 9/11. It also happened coming out of the recession. So a lot of it is, situations that communities are in budgetary wise. If they're in a good position, then they can attract quality candidates. There will be applicants that will meet your needs. I'm not going to promise you a large pool of candidates, without a doubt, but I don't like to have to do this twice. We're going to put in a significant effort and we're going to make it go around this time and get it right this time. So, Councillor Spoon, I wish I could give you more definitive answers.
No, I don't think anyone has any definitive answers about anything right now. I just kind of, based on your experience, what you were saying, but you're still seeing candidates. People are still looking for jobs. My concern is that people are holding where they are. They don't want to make a big change. And what I wanted to hear is that there are still candidates looking. Is my big concern.
Absolutely. Running a similar process for a smaller community here in Northern California. Although a small pool, we have a handful of qualified candidates that will move forward.
So, Phil, as I'm looking at the posting material, just to kind of go through everyone, filing deadline is June 1st for resumes. Preliminary interviews, which will be conducted by you, Phil, June 3rd through June 12th, correct?
Yes.
And then we'll get the list of recommended candidates on June 17th. And
actually, you'll get the list or the book. You'll get a listing of all candidates who apply, and then the book of recommended candidates by about 3 days before that 17th meeting.
Okay.
So you'll have a chance to read.
And then the finalist interview process, that'll be when we bring them, hopefully, into town to do an in-person gauntlet of panels and community meeting and all that good stuff like last time.
That's correct.
Okay. Councilor Spoon, question?
Sorry, I have another question. In terms of your hiring process now, one of my concerns is that with a lack of travel ability, stay-at-home orders, whatnot, it is important to me, at least, that our city administrator lives in the city. But if they're from outside the area and they can't travel here to visit the community, have you had experience in stay-at-home orders, how that impacted the hiring process? Like, we're going to hire someone that's we require to move here, but are they going to be able to visit the community and see if it works for them and their family before they do that? What's that look like in your experience?
Yeah, you raised a good question. The community I just mentioned, that's to be determined. I mean, here in California, we're seeing, people driving around in their cars, obviously not getting out and interacting with a lot of people. How it happens on July 10th, I'm optimistic that things will be, certain restrictions will be lifted. Candidates will have had a chance to hopefully visit the community before the interview process. If not, that interview process becomes their chance to really check it out. I think as we go through the preliminary interviews, what I've been doing now with candidates, still a lot of unknowns. I'll keep you up to date. As soon as I know something, you'll know it. If things are going to change, if we're going to shift from July 10th to, July 24th, you'll have advance warning and we'll be able to accommodate those changes.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Councilor Parker?
Well, I suppose we should also have a tripwire upon the deadline of letting us know how many applicants you have and having your judgment on whether we have enough of a pool. I like the rest of the time frame, but there needs to be a go, no-go at the point of the cutoff there. And we do not know the dynamics going into it. I think I heard you, Phil, say that some communities have pulled back. Who knows? We may look out and find ourselves in this vortex between places that we're applying and places that haven't put out a recruitment yet. We're making this up as we go. So let's just go out there, give it the best shot we can. And, it's not like everything is in our favor and aligned, but, so what? Let's give it a shot and see if we can make some magic. We're counting on you, Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. I aim to please. Absolutely. As we approach the deadline, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, Mayor, I'll probably contact you and Amanda, let you know what the counts are, what I'm seeing. If we're gonna approach June 1st with a very small pool of unqualified candidates, it won't come as a surprise to you. I'll be in touch with you.
Sounds good.
One more thing, Phil, when you were talking about us at a certain point receiving the book, I don't need to receive that in a physical form. I don't know if you meant that allegorically or not, but certainly we don't need to be shipping things back and forth these days. If you can get us an electronic copy, we can figure out how to read it.
We can put it
That's
all
my
into a
opinion.
draw.
I mean, we should probably check out the rest of the council, but I'm thinking the way we did it before, we physically actually received a book. And
That's correct.
And I don't need that, Mayor.
Okay.
I'm good with a Dropbox link. That's the way everything's being done right now. It's quick, it's easy. You review it at your pace.
Same here. Electronic is good for me.
I'm a nerd and I still love things in physical form, but I can most of my business is done electronically, so I'll adapt for the sake of the greater good.
Yeah, Councilor Spoon, you're not the only one. I prefer the hard copy too, so.
I still
Yeah,
print everything, but
What was that, Trick?
I said I still print everything before I read it, but
I do as well. I like the paper copy. Okay, well, Phil, we appreciate that. Is there any other questions for Phil at all or comments on this? Okay. There is a motion there, page 1 there after the agenda, if someone wants to move us through that.
Got it. Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the hiring standards, criteria, policy directives, and candidate profile as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Barwig and seconded by Councilor Spoon to adopt the hiring standards, criteria, policy directives, and candidate profile as presented. Is there any further question or dialogue that needs to be had at this point? No? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm seeing and hearing a variety of 6 ayes Anyone opposed? All right, so adopted, and we will move forward, and Phil will get this out and work some magic. So, Phil, we really appreciate you joining in tonight and closing or moving this forward for us, and we appreciate it. And I thank all of you on an off Wednesday to meet and get this done so we can still stay on our summer timeline. So I appreciate that very much. Not like we don't have anything going on necessarily, but you know, still the gift of time sometimes is still nice. So great. I think that is our only agenda item for tonight. Amanda and Melissa, anything on your docket you need to cover off with us?
Nope, we don't have anything else. Thank you very much.
All right. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second. It has been motioned by Councilor Barwig and seconded by Councilor Hensley to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm seeing 6 ayes. Anyone want to hang out anymore? Nope, seeing none. Canby, thank you for joining us if you did. Phil, thank you. And we are adjourned. Good night.